This is Allison Richard, your holistic stress management and self-care coach, and today I wanted to bring you a practice to really my favorite kind of superstar self-care practice, especially for summer. This really does multitask. So it's a practice that not only can help you in the hot, humid summer months, really kind of reduce that sense of heaviness and swelling that comes in the legs and the ankles from all of the heat. It's really helpful for turning on your relaxation response, which has the possibility of helping you to sleep better, and also just generally allows you to feel a little bit calmer and more refreshed. So what we're going to do today, you're going to kind of meet a wall for yourself, and we really want to do this as a kind of a restorative practice. So you want to make yourself as comfortable as you can be. I have my little happy fuzzy rug with me just because it makes me feel a little more nourished and nurtured and supported. And you're going to come to bring your legs up the wall, and we're going to do various things here. So depending on how tight your low back is, how tight your hamstrings are, that'll depend how close you want to get to the wall. So for right now, you may not be all the way with your hips up against the wall, and you'll see what I mean as we get started. You'll adjust as you go. So what you're going to do is you're going to kind of just sit with one hip parallel to the wall that you're going to come up. And you can kind of come to sit with this hip pretty close. Again, if your back's a little tighter or hamstrings are a little tighter, maybe start a little bit further away. And then kind of simultaneously, you're gonna start to turn yourself so that you can swing your legs to go up the wall as you bring your back down to the floor. And I want you to pause for a moment once you get here. So you can kind of flex your feet for a moment so that your heels are making contact with the wall. Legs don't have to be super straight, but I want you to start to notice your pelvis once you're here, because we want to make sure that your pelvis is in neutral. So what that's going to mean is that you kind of have a natural curve in your low back. And I think some of us get into a habit of maybe having a really tucked pelvis or tilted pelvis. So some of us aren't really sure what neutral means for our low back and our pelvis. So the easiest way that you can figure that out, I want you to find those two little hip bones that poke out in the front of your hips on either side. And then if you find your belly button and you just draw a line straight down from your belly button, there's a hard bone at the very base of your pelvis. That's your pubic bone. So you have this little triangle of these three bones here for a moment. And I want you to notice, if you kind of rest your hands on these bones, if they feel like they're basically all kind of flat and parallel to one another, or if it feels like that pubic bone is maybe kind of pushing up towards the ceiling a little bit more. And if it's doing that, you might feel like your low back is really flat on the floor, like you don't have any arch or curve in your low back. Or you might feel the other way, where it feels like that pubic bone is kind of dropping more towards the floor than your hip bones, and you have a really big arch in your low back. So I want you to see, and you can kind of play by kind of flattening out the low back, kind of curling that tailbone up, or going the opposite way and kind of arching the back so that you're kind of tilting towards your tailbone and that pubic bone is dropping down. And then just find the halfway point between the two where you feel like, again, that pubic bone and those hip bones are really kind of in line with one another, really kind of flat across the front of your body, because that's going to be your neutral pelvis. So if you're too close to the wall, you might find that you can't get into that position. So you might need to kind of wiggle yourself away from the wall a little bit until you feel like you have that kind of neutral pelvis and that natural curve in your low back, because that's what I want you to keep for most of what we're going to do. So it takes a minute to set that up, but I really want that to happen so that you can really be in the most optimal position for your legs, your hips, and your low back. And then from there, I want you to see if you can really try to flex through your ankles for just a moment, as much as you can. So maybe notice if there's any tightness through the hamstrings or the calves. Just take a really deep breath here. And then open your mouth, just sigh it out, let it go. And you can have your hands and arms wherever it's most comfortable. So whether that's kind of resting on your abdomen or your chest or out to the sides. So just take them wherever it feels the most nourishing for you. And you're just gonna breathe here for a couple breaths. So if you can for now, try to keep those ankles flexed, just so you're really starting to get a little bit of stretch through the hamstrings and the calves. And I will caution a little bit, so as you really flex through those ankles, make sure that it's not also causing you to push that low back into the floor. So make sure you're keeping that neutral pelvis. And then as you rest here, and just feeling the back of your pelvis and your hips on the floor, just imagine those big bones in your thighs, those femur bones, kind of just dropping down a little bit deeper into each hip socket. So they're just kind of integrating more together, really letting the weight of your hips sink into the floor. Just continuing to breathe here. Be seeing if you can start to soften through your abdomen, relaxing through your chest. Feeling your shoulders relax and drop. Softening through your throat and all the muscles at the back of the neck. And then relaxing your jaw. And softening your cheeks, your forehead. Whether your eyes are opened or closed, maybe just starting to relax your eyes. Just taking one more deep breath in. And just sighing it out. If you really want to stay here for longer, you can always pause this video and stay for a little bit longer if you'd like. I'm just wanting to move you through a few different variations, just so you can kind of play with it. Really kind of getting a stretch for your low back, your hips. And just noticing which variations feel best to you, so that you can always do maybe your favorite variations on your own. So from here, you're just gonna go ahead and bend your right knee. So I'm just gonna put that right foot on the wall for a second. And then you're just gonna cross your right leg to the outside of your left. So if you can, kind of put that right foot flat on the wall. So it can be higher up, it can be lower down. If you can get it to the wall, go for it. If you can't, that's fine. Just try to go above or below your knee so you're not kind of pushing into your knee. And then from there, you are just going to start to kind of take your legs all the way over to the right. So you're going to kind of walk that right foot down the wall, take your legs all the way over to the right. If you can bring both legs to the floor. If they do not go that far, or it's not okay for your hips or your low back, they do not have to come that far. And then from here, just let your arms extend out. So just kind of taking that little twist. You can turn your head to one side or the other. Just taking a breath kind of into that whole left side. And as you exhale, just feeling everything, your arms, your legs, just soften a little bit more, relax a little bit more in whatever side of your body they happen to be on at the moment. Just take one more deep breath in and let it go. And then turn your head back to center. You're going to bring your legs back up. So you can either bring them up the way you got them down, or if you want to kind of uncross over here and then bring them back up, you can do that. And then just take a moment, extend both legs back up the wall once you get there. Just to kind of, you can wiggle your hips a little bit, just to kind of let your pelvis and your back readjust. Recheck for that neutral pelvis, so kind of make sure that you still have those 3 points of your hip bones and pubic bone in that kind of flat parallel space. And then when you're ready, go ahead and bend your left knee. Again, cross
across that left foot to the outside of the right leg, just finding a place on the wall, high or low. Again, maybe just not directly pressing on the outside of that knee. And then as you're ready, start to just let the legs fall over to that left side. And again, you can go as little or as much as it is okay for your back. If they do not come all the way down the wall, that is fine. If you're reaching those arms back out, turning your head in the opposite direction as last time, and just breathing into that whole right side, the sides of your ribs, your waist, down into that kind of outer hip, all the way down the outer leg. Just taking a couple breaths here. Taking one more deep breath in. One more exhale. And again, turning your head back to center. However it is easiest on your low back, please feel free to kind of unwind, bring yourself back towards your back. Again, extend those legs back up for a moment, just taking a deep breath in. Exhaling it out. Good, and then again, you can wiggle the hips, find your neutral pelvis, and then just separate your feet a few inches, the feet and the legs, and go ahead and just circle your ankles around for a moment. So like I said, there's lots of swelling that happens in the legs and the feet. This can also be really great to do if you've been sitting a lot during the day, or if you've been traveling, especially if you've been flying on a plane. And just circle those ankles in the opposite direction if you haven't already. Just go ahead and take one more deep breath in. And then exhale. Good. And then from there, go ahead and flex your feet again. So see if you can almost imagine you want to make a footprint on the ceiling above you. So really kind of letting those feet be as flat as you can. You can bend your knees a little bit if you need to, especially if the legs are tight. And then keeping your pelvis in that neutral, you're just going to start to open your legs into a V. So you can go super wide, close together. Do whatever you feel like you can kind of stably hold through the hips. So it doesn't have to be the widest you can go, but just starting to get a little stretch through those inner thighs. As you go, make sure that the ankles don't start to turn. So kind of keep drawing the pinky toe sides of your feet back towards you a little bit. And really think about lengthening up from the inner edge of your inner thighs all the way up and out through that ball right behind your big toe. And then again, just breathing here, feeling that pelvis in neutral, feeling that stretch through the inner thighs. Just taking a deep breath in. Exhaling it out. One more time, deep breath in. And letting it go. Then you want to keep the legs relaxed. So take your hands to the outsides of your thighs. I always like to bend the knees a little bit just so it doesn't pull on the low back or the pelvis too much, and just use your hands to kind of help bring the legs back towards one another again. Extend them up one more time. And then this time, as you start to bend your knees, go ahead and start to open the knees. Bring the bottoms of your feet together so that basically the pinky toe side of your feet are the only part that's touching the wall. And then you can just start to let your feet slide down the wall. So if you're further away, they may be able to slide down more. You can always wiggle yourself a little bit closer if you feel like it's not giving you enough of a stretch, again, through those inner thighs. And the lower your feet come down the wall, the more it'll stretch the inner thighs. The higher up you take the feet, the more it'll stretch outer thighs. So feel free to choose the location that feels best to you. Recheck for that neutral pelvis for me. So again, just make sure pubic bone, hip bones are just kind of flat across. That pubic bone isn't kind of pointing up more towards the ceiling or dropping down more towards the floor than the hip bones. And just giving yourself a breath here. Again, as you exhale, maybe really starting to soften that space between that triangle of your hip bones and your pubic bone. So that really low part of the abdomen. Really letting that soften and relax towards the floor. Just feeling that front of your low abdomen sinking down towards the back of the body. Just allowing it to release any tension or tightness that might be in the pelvis. Or that really low part of the back, your sacrum and your tailbone. Just taking one more breath in. Releasing it out, let it go. Again, similar to how you got the legs together when they were open into that V, go ahead and take your hands to the outsides of the thighs. Just draw the inner thighs back together. This time, if you want, you can take the feet off the wall, just hugging both knees into your chest. So now you can kind of let that low back press down into the floor, maybe just rocking yourself from side to side for a moment. And eventually rolling yourself over to one side. Take your time if you've been here for a while. So just pausing on your side, take a breath in and out. And then as you feel ready, go ahead and press yourself all the way up. Just coming to sit for a moment, just letting your body readjust. Thank you so much for joining me for today. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Please like or subscribe below, comment, let me know how this went for you, and I will see you soon.